Welcome back to this amazing, beautiful podcast, episode number 8 of the Passport Boys podcast. Today, brand new setting, brand new people, same old brothers. My brother Sean over here,
What's good, everyone?
co-host, and my brother Sebastian.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. This is our 25 subscriber special.
All right,
Yes,
let's
sir.
do
Let's
it.
clap out
25
for that.
subscriber on
Let's do
YouTube. Passport Boys.
How you guys
Exactly.
feeling today, man?
Pretty
New
good.
setting.
Yeah, it's a new setting, and honestly, I have been waiting for a long time to do this episode, and we finally
Yeah.
got it. We were
First
finally
of all,
in the studio.
Shout out to the CEO right here that made it all happen.
CEO.
Because
All right.
without him, this wouldn't have been possible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, first of all, I would like to talk about our sponsor. As you can see, it's
First
the
sponsor.
D-Natural juice on the desk right here.
Yes,
We got
sir.
sour soap, which is in green. We got passion fruit, which is in purple, and the dragon fruit in the middle, which is pink. So one thing I really like about this drink is that it contains no artificial flavor, no artificial color, and it's no added sugar. So definitely check out in the link description below to get your D-Natural fruit juice.
Shout out to Takari International.
All right, shout out to Takari International.
Takari
Let's
International.
go. Today we have a very special episode because we have a very special guest on our podcast, and this is our first ever guest on our podcast. I would like to welcome Jallal. Get over here, Jallal.
sir.
Come on, let's go.
What's good? What's good?
Super
Fine.
honored.
Glad to finally meet you, bro.
Awesome. How are you feeling today, Jallal?
I'm feeling great, man. How
You're
you feeling?
you're our first guest on this podcast, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Of
lot.
course. Yeah,
What you been
sorry,
up to recently?
California.
Whole bunch of nonsense, you know. Like I guess I've just been just enjoying my time off right now, you know.
Dude, I
Yeah.
feel you, man. I definitely need that
Definitely.
time off. I've been like working a lot, but yeah, I kind of like want to get into the questions about your music career. Are you done for that?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So let's start with your childhood background. Where did you grow up? And growing up, did you ever think that you were gonna be a rapper?
First of all, I grew up in Los Angeles. When I was younger, I never thought that I would get into the realm of hip hop. Like I feel like it just kind of came to me. So it was just the way of the universe, and it just lined up perfectly.
Sure. Where did your name originate from?
So my name originates from my full name, which is Jallal and
Mm-hmm.
everyone called me Jallal my whole life. So even my mother and my friends, you know, my brother, everyone just called me Jallal. So I was like, okay, you know, I'm just going with that. You know, that's where it is. And my name means
Sure.
glory, so it originates from one of the names of God. In the Arabic, there's 99 names of God. So it's a specific name and attribute of God. So it's Jallal. So it's like glory. So I was like, yeah. And my last name is Malik, which means king. So my full name.
I can see that with
Yeah,
your music.
you dress up
Yeah.
like a king, man.
No, I appreciate it. That's love, man.
Yeah, I love your
I'll
drip.
take it, man. Good looking out, man.
I can
Thank
see
you.
that with your music. You're very like a man of God, I would say, right?
I appreciate
You're
it.
speaking from your lyrics and all
Absolutely.
that.
I try to. You know, I think every human being has their relationship with God, and for me, I think it's very important. It's very important nowadays as well too. And I think that in the current atmosphere that we are thrown into, you know, being here in the West, I think it's very important to have something that you're 10 fingers, 10 toes devoted to. So I think for me, it's always been something from the jump, you know, as at a young age. It's just having that connection with the divine, and I'm very blessed and grateful for that, you know.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
definitely.
So with that being said, who brought you into the faith? Is it like your family, or did you bring it up or did you just thought about it yourself?
For me, it's always been people around me since I was young. You know, I had a friend who was I was very close to, who was Muslim, and my mother, you know, she got really enveloped in it and thought it was just a beautiful thing. You know, you have Africans coming, you know, to the West, and it's a whole different vibe, I guess, you know, and keeping that sort of identity is difficult for people, but I just there was no compulsion in the faith. For me, it's something that I chose, and I wholeheartedly just took it a part of myself, and I said I want upon myself to be like, hey, you know, like I want to be a Muslim, and I want to, you know, practice this as the best as I can. And I think that it meant so much for me in the beginning, and then it even means more for me now. You know?
Okay, that's very interesting.
Sure.
So going back to the rapping question, I know that you were under Lupe Fiasco mentorship and Mos Def.
Right.
So how did you meet those two?
I think well, first of all, Lupe was one of the biggest, I guess, icons for us growing up. It was amazing, like, you know, listening to his mixtapes and what have you. So I never want to overshadow that, but to just jump straight into it, I think it was one of my friends, and I thank him to this day. His name is Jay Jihad. Like I love that brother. He just called me one day and he was like, hey, you know, I'm doing this youth program where I'm just picking up the hottest MCs and people who have talent, and I want you to come out to Big Bear, you know. And I said, for sure, I would love to. And he said, you know, if you have a couple, you know, pieces, because I started from spoken word. That's where I started all my music from, spawned from that. So I had some pieces that I had written out, and you know, I was in high school, so you know I was mad young, and he was like, come out. And when I was there, I was performing. And as I was performing in front of everyone went crazy, right? And I was like, wow, I didn't even drop like a hot bar, hot line or anything, right? Like, but everyone's like going crazy. And then I look behind me and it's Lupe Fiasco. And I was like, yo, this is crazy, man. Like, I never would have, you know, imagined like Lupe. And then I'm like, do I continue rapping or like, do I stop, you know, and give him like a dap or what have you? And that's how I met. And then from there, it's just, you know, he gave me his information, and just, it was one of the most beautifulest moments in my life. And I think from there on, like in my travels, you know, being able to be with him in Japan, fast forward years later, you know, vibing out, chilling at an underground Michelin star like restaurant, and just, you know, it's a full circle moment. So I think that was the meeting of Lupe, and you know, just a little background of how we felt. You know, when I mean we, it's just like the youth. You know, everyone that I grew up with, my friends, my family, like everyone who listened to his music. You know, I think it was very impactful. You know, it was always on the radio and what have you. So that was a shock. But I think more of a shock was, you know, getting to like literally be in the presence and live with Mos Def, you know, like on tour with him. I think that was the biggest thing for me, because, you know, at the age of 18, linking up with him was amazing. I was at the, you know, Yost Theater. Again, you know, music just takes you in so many directions, right? Like you're never like, when you start something, you're just never surprised, right? Like it just pops out of nowhere and you're like, oh, now I'm with this person now. So it's pretty intense. But meeting Mos was dope. Met him in California, and, you know, just had so many journeys with him that just never, it feels like they just never end. They live forever, you know? So that's how I met him, you know? And I think he's an amazing MC, and he has such outside of an MC, he's an amazing actor, you know, designer, everything. I mean, his repertoire is amazing, you know? Like I think little do people know that, you know, Mos Def has launched a lot of people's careers, including myself, including Kanye West, including, you know, Drake's career. You know, a lot of people just came out, and Drake's last album, you know, he's talking about how Mos Def, you know, that they're the ones who push, you know, they're open up for him and things of that nature, you know. They're the monumental figures in hip hop. So yeah, that's how I met Mos.
Awesome.
When did you know music was something you want to be a part of, or did you grow up with any like playing instruments, or your parents, you know, were they any artists or anything like that?
No, I think my mother always played music. Like we had found like old jazz, like literally like CDs that she had of like, you know, John Coltrane, Benny Goodman, you know, and then also pop music at the time, you know, Sade, and just seeing that she had all these CDs, it was just kind of like, oh, what did my mother listen to, you know? And I was like, oh, she loved Michael Jackson's music, you know, she loved Whitney Houston. So I was like always around like, you know, older iconic figures, you know, musicians. And I never thought too much of music. Like growing up, I really was more so focused on like, you know, I guess whatever was in pop culture at the time, right? Like Digimon, Pokemon, stuff like that. Like I wasn't, you know, I wasn't really like into like music from a young adolescence. I think it really dawned to me, and it was more, you know, I just guess I got a better introduction when I was around one of my friends who was obsessed with music. You know, shout out to Sean G, and he was just like crazy about like music. And then, you know, my brother Musa loves music as well too, so, you know, he's here with us. But he was just like, they love music so much, and for me, I was just like, I used to play basketball, right? And then if you used to go back on the YouTube highlights back in the day, like we're talking about like maybe like 07, 08, it would be all like Eminem like laced over like, you know, Jordan highlights, you know what I mean? Or Kobe highlights. So it's like I would just be like, oh, that's the background to it. But I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the rhyme scheme, I guess, with just the expression, you know, that these artists had through my friend, you know, Sean G, like specifically like ninth grade biology class. You know, he's always just putting that in my ear, listening to Pac, listening to Biggie, listening to all the West Coast greats, you know, like from NWA to like anyone you could ever think of. Like he was just like a sponge for that. And I guess like you are who you're around, you know? So like I was just around him and I was like, I picked it up.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Sean.
Yeah, shout out to Sean.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean.
The other Sean.
The
Yeah.
other Sean.
Sean G, man.
Not me.
Sean G,
Sean
man.
G.
Sean G, yeah.
So, regarding to how your friend introduced you to rap during high school, would you say that any of your other classmates in high school ever made fun of you for wanting to do rap, or
Would they listen to your
would
music?
they listen to your music?
Or they know about your music?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They had a special on me in 11th grade, like junior year. Like it was me, Lupe Fiasco, like photos of us, videos of us. Like they did this whole thing where they followed me like a day in a life, and they had like these updates that they would put it like, you know, high school. Like we all have like those little updates. You sit down and you got put on TV, watch it for like 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
But the whole update was on me, which was crazy at that moment. And I had made my first mixtape in high school, and at that time, I was also introduced to another rapper from my brother Kareem. He introduced me to Loon. So Loon was from like P. Diddy's Bad Boys group at the time. So that was like all those I Need a Girl songs. Like I Need a Girl Part 1, I Need a Girl Part 2 is like Loon, Diddy, and Usher. So it's like Loon actually came to my high school and like would pick me up from my high school and take me around. Like the city just kind of put me on a certain thing. So that was crazy too, because like I was bringing Loon to like, you know, my like the groups like and my friends and what have you, and like he would speak, like he would be like at this discreet location, discreet classroom, and just like speak on his life and stuff. And I mean, shout out to the administration for doing that. But like, yeah, I mean, it was that's another rapper that was really early on in my life, which I feel like that also drew me even more to like hip hop, because I was like, yo, there's just too many, you know, random occurrences that are happening around me where I'm like being connected with people who are people that I used to grow up or watch on TV. So I was like, you know, also like it helped me refine, you know, my music at the end of the day. Like I just had to go back to it and just start from the beginning, and I created a mixtape. And when I created that mixtape, I started selling the mixtapes at school. So like a lot of my friends were supporting me. And then you also have a lot of people who are just like, yeah, okay, we see you doing your thing, we see you rapping, so you're gonna have both sides of people, right? Like so it was, you know, that's to answer your question. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it sounded like it's your destiny.
Yeah, right. Keyword destiny. I think that's the thing that you never know what you're destined for, you know, but it's an ongoing journey. I think life is it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, like a box of chocolates.
Exactly. Man, bring out the chocolates. Roll it out the chocolates. We need some chocolates. Man.
So one thing I do admire about you when I watch those music video and your other podcasts is that you're very confident in front of the camera. So what is your secret to become very confident in front of the camera? You
know, I think it's I would say it's just you know, you're born with that confidence. I think, you know, I know that sounds cliche, but for me it's just something that I always grew around, you know, like I grew up around. I seen the greats before me as well too, and for me it was just naturally. Like I would, you know, get on camera when I was young. I would play around with the Canon digitals and stuff, and I would just record my sister, say, yo, you say this, tell me about your day, this, that, and the third. So I think we were very early on to that. But yeah, I guess it's just, you know, I don't even think that there's cameras. I just feel like it's a natural conversation every single time I'm doing an interview or what have you. I don't really go with the mind state like, yo, we're having an interview. You know, I don't make it like super casual, but at the same time, like, you know, you just do what you got to do, and you know, do you.
But you've had a lot of previous exposure though, right? You've been in like interviews before, a lot of interviews before. The music videos. You think that helped you out too? You know, just being more comfortable with the camera.
Sure, yeah. I think at a specific time, but also, you know, I think what really helps me is going back and working on myself. You know, like, so I think like when the lights are off and the cameras are off, and like I'm just in my own thoughts, it's about, you know, working on who you are as an individual too, like refining, you know, your little nicks and things that, you know, you may not like or things that you do like, and you know, it's just a work in progress. I always like, it's like when you're in the studio, right? Like you're working on a record, it's like you go in there and you're like, okay, this might be the reference track, and then you're there one day, you come in 5 days later and you're like, oh, you know, we can definitely tweak it here and there and do these little adjustments and make it better. And I think that's the same thing with a human being. Like you gotta have adjustments with yourself. But I always give it up to like just my faith of trying my best every single day to remind myself of the teachings, to just be a better human being. and you know, like anyone else would. We just want to be better, yeah. Like there's no, like, you know what I mean, like we're not
strive
trying
for
to go
greatness.
back, exactly. You know, like yeah, man.
Awesome. So yeah, with that being said, I really like that advice because I am someone that is trying to like start a YouTube channel and especially this podcast, and I've also have a gaming channel. So with the advice that you gave me is really relevant to what I'm trying to do because
Right.
I noticed that when I'm in front of a camera, I get all shaky, I get all nervous.
Right.
But I think after hearing your advice now, that kind of calmed me down in a little bit. So I just gotta like pretend that the camera ain't here, just having casual conversation and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in other words, you improved his character development.
Nah.
Yes, yes. Just having you here just makes me a lot more confident.
Right on, man.
definitely.
That's a blessing for sure.
Going back to the music, who were some of your influences growing up?
My influences had to be. It's a very wow. It's an
Because I hear a little bit of like J. Cole here and there.
Okay.
I hear a little bit of Kendrick here and there, just on the lyrical side of
Right on.
music. So I want to know.
Yeah, no, I was
were
in
you-
love with this band when we were younger, and Moose knows this. They're a band from Denmark, right? So they're from Copenhagen. It's a band called Outlandish. They were just literally like my influence growing up. I was like, their music was just like, yeah, that was like top, tier. Is like you had to go on LimeWire to grab this stuff from like they were this band out of Europe, right? So like
Yeah.
they had like a little bit of rap, a little bit of singing, folk. It was like this whole mixture, and I think every single time they dropped an album, it always surprised me. Like I was just like, wow. But but also rap influences were very important to me. I think it was more so like MF Doom, Mos Def, Lupe Fiasco. I think those were the top ones when it came down for like lyrical, because they were hot, at that moment. They were like big, but outside of that, it was more so like jazz, like it's just always been no words. It's just like I'll listen to John Coltrane, I'll listen to Benny Goodman. I would do deep dives into just who they were as people, and how they got to their positions. I think that was what I loved the most, even to this day,
Yeah.
just even scat music as well too. Like I thought that was great, like when people were just, before it was even rap, they're just that was the thing, like you're scatting, on the mic, just not saying any words, but just vibing out. And I think that's what rap music is now too. You see like artists like Future that he would go in the studio, lay down a reference where he's not saying anything, but then finding that rhythm. And I think that's what I was more attracted to. So I think those are my influences though. Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. So with that being said, let's say if someone wants to be like a rapper, but they have like zero connection and they have zero experience, where would be the best place to start?
I think from the house or wherever you're at,
House.
yeah. It's just working on your craft.
Okay.
That's would be the best place to start, because even you guys, right? Like
Right.
I'm working on that stuff from a studio, but at the same time, there's that reach. Now you're able to see my music videos. You're able to see the music and I mean, hear the music and be a part of it. I think that you would just have to kind of go back to that. Nowadays, just writing it on the iPhone, just creating your raps and putting it out, right? You could package everything together. Everything's a little bit more easier in terms of streamlined, right? Like you can go at home and create your music, and it's right there, it's on your computer. Like you ain't really got to go
No,
anywhere.
you could do a lot of things on your phone.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I've
too.
started a YouTube channel off a phone,
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
There
and
it
like
is.
I'm editing everything off the phone
That's
currently.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm uploading
I
shorts.
have a
and
laptop, but
everything.
it's
Yeah, there you go. You got
Yeah.
you got the keys. Come
Yeah.
on.
Get the keys.
Exactly.
So in terms of that, what would be like the best platform to like share your rap? Would it be like TikTok, YouTube, Spotify? What's the best platform to share your rap?
I think when it comes down to platforms, you would just have to have your finger on the pulse when it comes down to pop culture. So if things are shifting from like Instagram to TikTok and you see more, traction through the numbers like on TikTok, then I would go to wherever is hottest, right? Like it would be like, oh, if Facebook is hot, go on Facebook.
Yeah.
If TikTok is hot, if there's a new app that comes out later, I think you got to go where most people's attention spans are like locked in, right? So I would
definitely.
go
Yeah,
with
TikTok,
whatever.
definitely.
Yeah, you got to follow the trend when it comes down to that.
Speaking of that, I feel like nowadays, everyone have like short attention span. So with like the answer you gave, I feel like TikTok would be the best. So you have to put in like the best rhyme and just post it on TikTok and hope everyone sees it.
Yeah,
What do you
exactly.
think about that?
Yeah, no, of course. That's literally, where I was at, like from the question. I think that's what you have to choose. You have to just choose. You got to be very quick to pivot and be adept to things that are in constant change. And what I mean by that is more so like the apps and, you know, where your fan base is going or where the demographic is going. So if the demographic is on TikTok and that's where, you know, those are the demographics who may, you know, equate when it comes down to ticket sales and what have you, I think then you have to pivot yourself and be like, okay, like you said earlier, like let me put myself on that platform, because that's what it comes down to, right? It comes down to, if you want to be successful in what you're doing, know what you're getting into, study the market, or if you don't study the market, know somebody who knows the market who can guide you and mentor you to understand, like, hey, this is where you're going to get a high conversion rate of people who are going to come to your shows or make a living off of it. But if you're just trying to rap, then yeah, man, just do it at the crib, you know? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Do what you love. Just
Everything just gotta be authentic.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Have you ever made like an album or a song that you thought was like, oh man, this is amazing, but you didn't drop? Because I see that a lot with artists.
Right.
That I hear snippets and I'm like, I really want that song.
Yeah.
But they never drop it, or they completely switch their image from that style to a different style.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
Same with me on Juice World.
On Juice WRLD, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Juice, man. He's dope. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
But I've done that
Is there a reason for that?
multiple
After-
times. Yeah, I think for me, you just it could be politics, right? Where, you know, you're working with specific producer who doesn't feel the same way they may have felt about the song when you first started on it.
Yeah.
So obviously you only own what you've done on the record,
Yeah.
right? So if you're the one who's only putting the vocal part on the record, then obviously you're going to have, you know, a conflict of interest. So it could do that. It could be with that. It could be, you know, if you're on a label, you know, it could be issues with the label. It could be issues with distribution. It could be issues with the other artist, you know, who may be on the track. So there's an array of issues that can spawn from that, you know. And then sometimes it comes down to personal preference, right? Like you'll get an artist who's like, yeah, I grew from that, like you were saying earlier. Like I don't feel like I want to drop that, which is, from a fan's perspective, it feels like a great injustice. You're sitting there like, man, like I can't even get the record. But yeah, I think it's a number of things. And to answer your question, yes, I've done that multiple times, and it wasn't. Sometimes you're holding off on it, but that was me in the past. You know, like now I'm more so like, I'm very excited to put whatever I've had in the past. We dropped a record with my man Billy Rax, which is he's an amazing artist. He's living out here in Los Angeles, but he's from Houston. But you know, he's just a great human being, right? Like he's someone that I connected with very early on, and I was holding on the record, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time just to put it out now, you know, and just for the people, because when you put it out, it becomes brand new to the people, and that's a gem for everybody, you know, like that's brand new. And as artists, it's so old, right? Like you had it for 2 years, but the first time you guys listen to it, you're like, oh man, this is new, this is fresh, but we forget that, right? Like that becomes the crisis that we deal with every single day. We're like, man, like, should we drop this? It's like, bruh, people haven't even heard this yet, you know? So it's new.
Definitely. I think I need to understand that, because I be getting mad all the time that they don't be dropping the songs. But now I understand. Thank you for putting it into perspective for me. But
Sure.
Yeah, it definitely put us into the perspective of an artist, because, you know, fans would always get mad if an artist would delay or not drop anything. But there's always good reasons behind that. I know how you said that, like, you drop a lot of, like, songs.
Right.
So do you ever, like, feel like, oh, I just wasted a lot of time on this song? So do you ever felt that way, or do you ever feel, like, disappointed because of that?
Or an album.
Or an album?
I have in the past. It brings great disappointment and frustration as well too, since you're spending so much time and energy and passion into making a record, you know, or an album as well too, and then, you know, things may just not go the way that you wanted, or they may go completely south, and you're sitting there and you're like, what am I supposed to do, or how can I come back from this? But I think also, you know, you asking that question now, I'm in a different mindset. And what I mean by that is I'm very blessed to have this idea of understanding, right, and being okay with it, right? So I'm like, you know what? That is something that could happen in the music, right? Like when I'm making it, like I got to understand that could be a consequential, you know, thing that comes out of just making that record. Like you got to like look at all sides of things, right? And be like, oh, you know what? That may happen. You know, and you got to take it as a loss, right? So it's like when you're in a business, right? Like you're like, oh, you know, someone came and jacked our grill, you know what I mean, or something like that. It's like now we can't make, you know, tacos for the rest of the night. You know what I mean? But you gotta, you know what I mean? But you gotta work with it, right? You gotta pivot from it, or you gotta understand that comes with it. And I think having that sort of maturity, because a lot of the times I think as musicians, speaking for myself first, we become very mighty possessive about certain aspects of our work, right? In terms of like just the music itself, right? Like we're just possessive of how it goes out, how it's packaged, how the visuals are, how people see it, you know, but we can't control how receptive our demographic is of the music, right? So like I think it comes down to, again, just understanding that, hey man, that's the terms and conditions, you know, like that you could be hit with your music.
No, definitely.
Okay.
You were just speaking about, you just said RP Juice, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on new gen rap? Like for like the Juice WRLDs, Little Uzis, Cardis, because I listen to a lot of that.
Okay,
that's
right
the majority of what I listen to.
Yeah, he's a
or
big fan.
SoundCloud.
Yeah,
SoundCloud. I'm on SoundCloud like every day trying to listen to something new. But
Mans is on SoundCloud too. Moose is a
Real?
king of SoundCloud. Yeah,
he knows what's good.
Yeah, I'm happy you on that vibe. No, I met Juice WRLD, you know, like
really?
shout out to my man Tyler the Creator. So Tyler the Creator brought me to got me, Moose, like we all had passes to go down to his Odd Future Fest, you know.
Yeah.
His big festival. So we met Juice, and Juice was just like super down to earth, you know, and that was shortly before he passed away, and he just killed the set. I think all the new generation rap is amazing. For me, you know, we have to support that they're getting their own take on music, right? They have, like you said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, that they have, you know, what are your reference points of music, right? Like you asked me, like, how do I feel, like, you know, about those reference points? Like, where did I take them, you know? And I took them to become me, you know. I became Jallal as an artist, you know. And I think that the new gen rap are taking references, and their reference points are completely different than our reference points, you know. I still like to consider myself, you know, new gen too, because you got to be tapped in with the streets, you know.
No, definitely.
But yeah, I love them. I think it's great. It's everyone has their own expression and their own art form, and it's great. Like I see Playboy Cardi, you know, with Aiden Ross going crazy. You know what I mean? Like
he went crazy on that one. Yeah, he for sure went crazy on that one.
You know, or like, you know, just anybody. Like you got to just be, like you said, like tapped in, be on the SoundCloud, you know, be the king of SoundCloud, you know.
No, definitely. Sure.
Yeah, so speaking about the new gen rappers, what do you think about the mumbling behind it?
Mumbling.
I've seen a lot of mumbling in that genre, so what's your opinion on it?
You know, I think rap is always transforming, right? Like you had Kool Herc throwing it down, you know, like in New York, and that was the start of rap music, right? Like historically, like everyone's gonna have their own idea on like who actually started, but it's like the turntables and then the raps, and then from there like the spoken words, and you know, and then you had, you know, the conscious rappers that came out of it, and then now, you know, it's fast forwarded to a point where I was watching this special on YouTube that they just were talking about how much easier it was to create mumble rap music. Like they would just get behind the mic and just say things that they felt, and it was, again, going back to like jazz, right? Like they're expressing their feelings, right? And it may not be words, but it goes again to see that, you know, people will still kind of, you know, tap their foot to it, you know, vibe out to it or whatever in the car, blast some music. That's what happens, you know, like it's supposed to take. It's never going to be the iPhone 1 forever. You know what I mean? Like it's going to go to the iPhone 16 and 25, and it's going to keep going. So I think that, you know, people shouldn't be, you know, they shouldn't feel discouraged, you know, like being like, oh man, like look at these new kids, you know, they straight took the rap and just twisted it. But it's like, y'all did the exact same thing, right? Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes the camel don't see its own hump. You know what I mean? Like you're seeing the hump of the other camels, right? So it's like, they don't know what they got on their back, you know?
Yeah, before you talking about it, I thought mumble music was something that was, you know, lazy, you know, degenerate. But now, upon your words, I feel like, oh, okay, it could be some piece of art. Yeah. Like another Leonardo da Vinci or some shit.
Exactly, man. You never know, right? Like, you never know.
Yeah.
Is there like any dream collab that you would like to do in the future with other artists?
Or brand.
Yeah, or brand.
Yeah. Or your own brand.
My own brand.
There you go.
There you go. I like that. I think at this moment right now, I would love to collab more with my friends, you know, like people that I know.
Okay.
You know, whether they're up and coming or people who are already in the game. I think that would be great to kind of touch something that's different. I think we're all getting to a specific time in our life now that, you know, there's been a constant shift, you know, after things like COVID and the current, you know, state that we are in, you know, politically. You know, I think that we get to a position where there's all these shifts. So I think with those shifts, you know, it helps us, again, speaking for myself, see, you know, different avenues. So I would love to go back in the studio with a couple of my friends and be like, hey, let's, you know, go back and make records now. You know, you guys already touched base on where you guys wanted to touch base, you know, in terms of their musical careers and what they were kind of, you know, going on and making their path to be. I think, yeah, that would be nice to go back and just do some music with some friends, do some, you know, things like this, yeah? Like I've come out here like with some people that I know.
Definitely.
And I think that's why, you know, even just a side note, going with my man Sean, like we were connected, and it's just like, you know, it was like, why not? You know, like I'll come and do this because I remember how difficult it was for me, even though it may seem like, oh man, this guy had a pathway like cut off, like he had all these stars and everything aligned or what have you. It was still difficult because you would go back home and be like, okay, now I need to create my work, right? So the frustrations do settle in, right? You know, the fear settles in, the doubt settles in, but you got to attack those things. And again, going back to yourself, know what channel that's coming from, right? Like, is that coming from who you are as a person? Is it coming from outside voices? You know, you got to know the channel that's coming from. Is it coming from the divine? And then once you're able to separate those channels, then you're able to like hone in and just be like, okay, I need to do the work that I need to do, you know? And that there's no difference, you know, from corporate America, right? Like you go in there and you're like, okay, now I got to put my corporate thing on, you know? And do what you got to do. Right. But it's again, you know, you have to be able to put that hat on and just focus, right? Like I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to just focusing on what you're trying to do. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I really admire about you is that you're willing to collab with your friends and people that you know. Because I know when artists gets big, they're like, oh, I'm just going to ditch my friend and then just focus on celebrities. So that's one thing I really do admire you about that. And of course, like coming to this podcast is really a big deal for us. So
right on.
Again, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man.
Thanks a lot.
Of course.
So with that being said, I do want to talk about like a little bit about social media because I know you're really successful in the social media world. Okay. So I know the last time when we did added each other, you were at like 1.5 million followers, and then now you are at 2 million. So within that 1 year time span, how were you able to get that many followers?
You know, again, it's about being consistent. So I think I focus more so on my life. A lot of times people don't. Coming into the industry, I was like under the people who were more privatized with their celebrity life, right? So it's like you'll know Mos Def for his music, but you'll never know, and his movies, right? You'll be like, oh, okay, this is great, but you'll never know like his intimate private life, right? Which I think that there was a huge distinction of them being corporate, right? Like this is our music, it's out there for the people, but when we're at home, we're not really putting, you know, this stuff out there. Yeah. But nowadays, again, with trends and pop culture and social media, that has become like the golden calf, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I want to see your makeup routine. I want to see what you eat every single day. I want to see, you know, what video games you're playing. I want to be able to, you know, you look at Kai Cenat and you look at Aiden, you look at all these people coming out. It's like now they're just live streaming their days. You know what I mean? Like this is what we do. This is our routine. So I guess for me, I capitalized more during that time period of like, okay, let me show people who Jallal is. Let me show them what I like, you know, what I like to eat, where I like to go. Let me kind of not focus on the music as much. Let me focus on, you know, the outside,
your persona,
of the persona. Like, let me focus on just me, what I do on a day to day. Yeah.
I see. So I believe because of that, it relates to more people.
Sure.
Better than like people who's posting like, oh, Ferrari or Lambo. Not many people can relate to that. People just live streaming and eating and playing games. People can definitely relate to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that, Sean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, sir.
So one quick question. So you know how you were talking about you meeting Sean? So I was wondering how you actually met Sean.
Yeah, that's a great
really
thing.
good
He told us his side, but we want to hear your side.
Oh, I want to hear your side.
Yeah,
we'll explain both of our sides.
Both
so
of
you
our
can go
side.
first, Jallal.
I think, you know, again, little do people know, during my music career, I was always on the road and I was always on tour, right? Like I'm, you know, headlining, you know, shows. I'm also, you know, co-headlining, being on tour with Mos Def. I think that was it took a toll on me in terms of just like, you get thrown in the, you know, belly of the beast and you're just like on the run, right? Like you're flying, like, you know, I'm in Chicago, I'm in Tokyo, I'm back in California, I'm in, you know, San Diego, like, you know, I'm going everywhere, right? Like I'm in New York, and then I came back, and, you know, after, you know, releasing my last album, I told myself I think education has always been important. I know I said in the past, I said like, you know, schools, education is for all, and I would say schools for some. But also I think that education is always, it's a great, you know, tool to have, right? Like if you're trying to do what you're trying to do with it, right? Like it's like,
if you know what you're doing, then
yeah, exactly. It's all intentional. Yeah. So like for me, I just decided to go back. And I really wanted to shout out, like at this point in my life, I think that, you know, the biggest influence for me outside of my family and myself, you know, has been Swizz Beatz, right? Like Swizz Beatz was trying to hit these, you know, he's always hit these great pinnacles, a great designer, you know, artist, musician, producer. But at the same time, you know, he was always hitting walls, you know, in different places when he's trying to make these partnerships happen and things of that nature, you know, not because he didn't know what he was doing, you know, it was more so, again, like they weren't looking at him seriously when it came down to like education. So he went to Harvard School of Business, did his thing. I thought it was, you know, major, like shout out to him, like big ups. But for me too, I was like, you know, I've always hit those walls as well too, right? Like people would have like conversations and be like, man, you dope, you know exactly, you know, what you want to do and where you want to get or what have you, or this is a great idea. And it's like, man, like you ain't even go to school, you know? And I was like, nah. So Sean and I met, like I went back to school, you know, and I was like on that J. Cole vibe you were saying earlier, where I was like, I got to get my education, you know? So, you know, got my degree and I was like very blessed and, you know, met Sean, you know, we were like one of our classes. It was wow. It was a vibe. So yeah, so we just vibed up off top. Like I feel like when I was there, it was like, you know, shout out to my boy, you know, Jazz too. You remember Jazz?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, you got to, man.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
And Mario.
Yeah. So
we were all studying together.
Yeah, we just
shout
studied.
Out to Mario.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. And then you know, we were just vibing out. I guess like it was natural. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's cool.
It sounds like a bloody miracle, huh?
Definitely, yeah.
It was our undisclosed location to our school, you know.
Wow.
You know, fun fact. So the class that I took with you, that was actually my second time taking it because I had failed the first time. So imagine if I never failed that class.
Yeah.
Then this podcast episode would have never happened.
Yeah,
so
like we discussed, it's destiny.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I've never failed a class before until that class that we took because that class was difficult.
Yeah, you were taking notes in that class too.
I was taking notes. I was stressed.
Wait, you didn't take notes?
I was stressed.
We were on the computer. My man was about his own notes. You know what I'm saying? Like he was taking notes.
No, Sean's definitely a scholar.
No,
man.
definitely. Yeah.
Sean's
I was like stressing with that class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember. I think we got really close when we like studied together.
Right.
And then we bonded over Marvel. We bonded over like comic book, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we were like geeking out. It got to the point that there was like no study done at that session because we were just like talking about like comic.
Yeah,
and
no
Marvel.
wonder you failed the first time.
Yeah. That's probably why. Oh, dang. I just
They got my man.
Yeah, they got me. But yeah, we did talk about comic book, and that's basically how we bonded.
Yeah.
Basically, right? And then after that, we added each other on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And then the first time you told me your Instagram or showed me your Instagram, I was like, what the heck? This guy has like 1.5 million. Who is this guy? Now, on the outside, I was kind of like cool, but on the inside, like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
So I was like really surprised at that.
That was a great time, man.
It was great, yeah.
Yeah. We had some fun memories and stuff like that too. And
Yeah.
it goes back to what I was saying. You know, you have that detach, right? Like the disconnect. You're like, yo, corporate persona, whatever it is, you know, things that I do for work is on one side, and then just being a human being is the most important thing. So I think for me too, is like we're all, you know, on that journey together. We're all going through the human experience. So that's why when we linked up, you know, it's just again like reference points of where we were at, you know, like as children, it's like, oh, yo, you know, Dark Magician, you know, Blue Eyes White Dragon, that's crazy, man. You know, like and then taking it back to even comic books, right? Like my love for comic books and being in the scene as well too. Shout out to my man, you know, Nathan Cabrera. He's an amazing, just all around artist in general. But he also, you know, activated my love for comics as well too. And then, you know, my mother always put me, you know, in great places to succeed and gave me a lot of my cultural references. And we used to go to the comic book, you know, conventions and stores and stuff like that as well too. So yeah, when we met, man, it was great.
The energy was good.
Yeah,
like the energy was high.
Yeah, it was always high. Yeah, high frequency.
All right, so Jallal, we're gonna make some people mad today.
Okay.
Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. Who's your favorite Spider-Man?
That's hard. Man. That's hard. Yeah, you got what you guys' favorite ones?
I would say Toby.
Toby?
they're
Damn, man,
hard.
just straight.
No, I'm gonna say Andrew Garfield.
Straight
I'm
shooter.
gonna say
You
Tom-
go
I'm gonna say
say
Tom
Toby.
Oh, you're the odd duck out, huh?
Yeah, when you say Tom Holland.
I'm gonna say Andrew Garfield.
I'm
No,
gonna say Tom.
Andrew Garfield.
You?
But I respect that.
That's hard.
No,
Look,
he's
I'll
chill,
just say
bro.
this. Look, I'm not trying to be politically right, but all three are my favorite. You know what I mean?
All
I
three
like
are
the
pretty
team.
good.
Yeah, the teamwork when they all linked up. Yeah, I think they all had great, places. Like they all did justice, in my opinion, to Spider-Man. Right? Like Toby and then like Andrew at his time did great justice. Even though I was mad skeptical going into the theater, I was like, who is this guy? Right? Like English dude. Like you know what I mean? But when I saw him, I was like, yeah, he totally killed it. And then Tom Holland too. I think it goes down to like you were speaking about the rap, right? Like in terms of like mumble rap, old school rap, and how like that transitioning, like whoever's taking a mantle with it.
Yeah.
So I think Tom Holland is doing a great job right now as well too. Like he's taking
Yeah.
he's taking that Spider-Man role. He's taking the torch.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know
Definitely.
what? Why not?
For sure.
Nice. Do you like Spider-Man or Batman?
That's I like both. I
Right.
like for me. I was funny. I had this conversation the other day. I was like, I love all heroes, but I feel like I can't even pinpoint like a favorite one. Like it just changes like as the seasons. Like when a season changes, it's like okay, now I'm into
100%.
Batman Beyond right now. You know what I mean? Or like the season changes again. I'll be like, now I'm watching Static Shock. Like it's like changes again. We're watching reruns of The Flash on CW. You know what I mean? Like things are just like things are changing. Like then. Another season comes in, summertime, we're watching Batman Under the Red Hood, like we're just changing the whole vibe. So, yeah.
What would be your favorite superhero movie?
For me, my favorite would have to be Superman with the late, great, Christopher Reeve. Like the original,
okay.
right? We're
The
talking
original?
like the 19s, 1978, like that type of, that era, like that Superman was like everything for me,
Okay. That's dope, man.
What's your favorite comic book?
My favorite comic
all
book
time.
of all time.
You have to pick one.
Ooh, that's difficult of all
It is
time.
It is difficult.
Yeah, that's a crazy question. I feel like I do myself.
Well, like
a
top three,
disservice.
maybe.
Oh, yeah,
put, like,
top three.
Top three. He
Top
said- he
three.
said- he
Yeah,
said
yeah,
top
yeah,
five.
yeah.
Top five. Top five.
Top
20?
5. Well, I think anything that for me would have to be anything that's like Batman. The old Detective Comics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are great.
Those are classic.
Classic for real. I think also like I have like it's weird, but for some reason like when Cartoon Network did their rendition, like not rendition, but when they made the Teen Titans, they did Teen Titans Go, not the new Teen Titans Go, but they made the comic book line of that, right? Which I thought was great as well too. And then also anything like Silver Age, Golden Age, like anything that has any Marvel reference, right? Like Silver Surfer, you know what I mean? Spider-Man, like Wolverine. I love Wolverine. I think he's great. Spider-Man had the black suit on, you know what I mean? Like that, that's amazing too. I think there's so many references, there's so many plays, like a top 3 would have to be, anything that's like, Batman, and that includes Batman Beyond as well too. But, and then, Marvel would have to be like, X-Men. I love X-Men. I think X-Men is amazing. Like, I think it's slept on,
Yeah, it's underrated for sure.
X-Men is great. Like
It's underrated.
Yeah, X-Men, and then obviously, like Spider-Man is always great as well too, and Superman. Like there's too many to be like, oh man, I gotta pick.
Yeah, what I love about Spider-Man and Batman is that they have a really good villain roster. Like Batman's got Joker, you got Penguin, and then you got Mr. Freeze and everybody. I even played the Arkham games and everything, so I'm a huge fan for Batman.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Fun fact, shout out to my boy Will Friedle. He plays Batman Beyond. Like he's the voice actor for Batman Beyond, and he introduced me, to the late great Kevin Conroy, who plays the Batman voice on the Arkham games.
Damn.
Yeah. So he passed away. Rest in peace. but
Rest in
yeah.
peace, man.
Rip.
He's like the voice of Batman.
He is Batman.
Yeah, he is Batman.
He is the guy.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
Batman.
Yeah. So people got to shout out Kevin Conroy, man.
For sure.
This is gonna be a legendary podcast. I promise you.
Dude, this is
Too many
probably
golden-
the best episode.
golden
Yeah,
gems for you guys.
100%. We mentioned Batman and Superman,
He's all
Spider-Man.
hype.
That
He's
makes it, bro.
There you go.
I clip all of that.
Yeah.
I have to clip all of that.
Oh yeah, this podcast has a lot of clips. Like we got a
I'm
lot
running out
of
of phone
good content
storage.
here.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah, we are on our way up.
iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
So with that said, is there like any Marvel movies that you're excited for? That's coming up. I know Secret War is a big one.
I think Secret Wars, because I was there when Robert Downey Jr. at Comic-Con.
Oh, you were there?
wow.
Yeah, you were at Comic-Con. That's right.
at the
Yeah.
Hall H when he did.
Bro, I got jelly when I saw your
It's
IG.
crazy.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Damn, you're there?"
I was like, yeah, he was there in San Diego. I was like, yo. But you know what's so funny? Like years ago, when he was playing Iron Man again, he did the exact same thing on the convention floor. Marvel had their own booth, and he had like all these. It was sweet. He had all these like little kids dressed up as Iron Man, right? And then he had like an Iron Man mask as well too, and then like some other people, and then he did the exact same thing. Like he came up, took off the mask, super classic. You know what I mean? Like show. He's a great showman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he did the
Yeah.
same thing, and now it's like Doctor Doom. So I was like, yeah, it's a good correlation. You know, like man's did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of like Robert Downey Jr., he was actually supposed to be in the Deadpool movie, and he was supposed to play as Happy. I do not know if you've seen the Deadpool and Wolverine movie.
I seen the Deadpool.
I think
yeah.
he was supposed to play the role of Happy,
Oh,
but then
wow.
I think
okay.
because Robert Downey Jr. Got the Doctor Doom role,
Sure.
he turned that part down, so they gave that part to Happy. That's what I've heard.
Okay, damn.
That's
That would
kind
be
of cool.
classic to see him. Yeah,
That would be dope.
too much Easter eggs.
A lot of
Yeah.
Easter egg. So with that being said, what is your advice to like aspiring artists? We're going to like wrap it up.
Or just anybody that's in the social media
or
realm.
who wants to be in social media, future content creator,
Yeah.
aspiring artist.
Yeah. What are the tips and tricks?
Tips
Yeah.
and tricks, man. I like that. Man said tips and tricks. I felt like that was like a food item off a menu. You know what I mean? But
I got you, fam.
He said, I got you. Yeah, I think again, it would just be knowing what you're getting yourself into. Knowing the ins and outs. Doing as much. You have to have an idea of some sort of R&D before you get into anything that you do. So again, do as much research as you can into what you're getting into. Understand that like, if things do go south, you have other sources or other things that you're, interested in and or want to do in life as well too, and then also have a great attitude about it, right? Like you want to be able to invite anything that comes your way and then from there have the best judge of character within yourself to like know that like, hey, if this is, something that I can, dedicate my time and my efforts to, then I'll go ahead and do so. But if you can't, then obviously know that might go down to one of those consequences. Again, like you have to be able to know yourself before you get into something that's bigger than yourself. And that's what the industry is, right? Like that's why it's an industry. You know what I mean?
is
Like
an
there's so much, facets in it. So I would also just say that be as gentle with yourself as possible when you're getting into this place, no matter what you're passionate about. Take time and understanding, the market, understand trends, understand, if you being authentic is going to make a change, like, again, there's a business aspect to it as well, too, where I think a lot of people forget, that exists. But then there's also the art side of it as well, too. But know what time you're going to allocate. So it comes down to, again, time management and knowing, like, hey, if I can allocate my time to doing this, then be as authentic with yourself. Be as true as yourself as possible. Let things flow out. Look at the response from people, around you, and don't make that the meter for your work, right? Like, always remember that as well too. I think sometimes that's some advice that I was never given as well, right? Like I was never given like that. Hey, if someone doesn't like it, that shouldn't necessitate, like you going back to the drawing board and be like, oh man, like now I got to strategize my whole, like my whole project all over again from the beginning. I think again, it's just like no, put it out there. Not everyone's gonna like what you're doing, but that doesn't mean what you're doing is bad, right? Like it's just not for everyone, right? Some people might have walked out of a movie and been like, "Yo, that was trash."
Yeah.
Some people
Right.
walk outside and be like, "No, that was the best movie I've ever seen."
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's
absolutely.
obviously you're gonna have your friends like looking at you skew, like, "Man, is that guy good?" Like, like, that's how you felt about the movie. But it comes down to that. I think those are my biggest tips. Just going off the fly, like how I feel. In this moment right now, it may change later. You never know.
Definitely.
And speaking that, like I'm an aspiring like YouTuber. I want to make content.
Sure.
So, what is your advice if someone is like sending hate? Like, how do I not let that affect me?
How do you deal with hate?
Yeah, how do you deal with it?
Yeah.
The best thing again is to whenever you get hate your way, right? You don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But just know that you don't operate on that frequency. So sometimes it's very difficult, because your emotions will take control right away, right? You'd be like, man, I got so much stuff to say about XYZ, but at the end of the day, it's like, just know that's coming on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Like, if it's coming on your face, it's one thing, you know what I mean? But if it's like coming on the internet, just know that that's part of the game, right?
Yeah.
That's like something that comes with it, right? Like, if you have that, it's kind of like you get accepted to a job and they're like, well, this is your, benefits, this is your 401k plan, this is, HR is going to give you this whole Rolodex of like what you're supposed to, choose for healthcare, and then, well, this is all the hate messages you're going to get. You know what I mean? Like, it's all part of it, right? So I think again, you have to understand how congruent and how those things they match up. So like hate will be a part of it. And then just people used to always tell me, and I don't know if this is cliche, but people will come up and be like, oh, that's how you know you're doing something good, right? They'll come up to you and be like, oh, you got some hate coming your way. But at the end of the day, people who are hating, they're operating from such a low frequency level, and almost, animal instincts, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, again, jealousy, hate, envy, greed, all that stuff. You got to be able to, pivot yourself to be like, I don't need any of that. I'm not going to take this to my house. I'm not going to, be on rerun every single day, every night just thinking about a hate comment, So it's like, again, it's like, I think social media is doing a great job now of limiting that, because, there's obviously, you saw with, Congress, and you saw with, what's his name? The owner of Facebook, you saw a lot of issues that he was getting in terms of like
his image.
Yeah, his image with like, children committing suicide and things of that nature because of hate messages and using the platform and stuff like that. So I think, again, it's like, being like, all right, Zuckerberg got it. But at the same time, like, he had to hold himself to a professional level as well, too, knowing that comes with the game. And a lot of the times, starting off from a young age, I don't want to sound repetitive, but we do forget that hate is all around us. There are people who are hating on you right now. There's people texting about you right now. But you know what? They're cowards at the end of the day. They're not going to say it in front of your face. A lot of times they won't, and if they do, it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
definitely.
No.
Yeah, what I learned from this book called Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson, he said that whatever you can become whatever you want, because at the end of the day, people are always going to hate you. Like, there are some who have unconditional hate for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, even if you were born, like, if you're born this way, they're like, oh, I hate you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like that. So in my understanding, like, throughout my 22 years of my life, I learned that do whatever the fuck you want, because I don't give a fuck at all.
Right.
Yeah. Just do what you can, do what's best for you, and then you're going to succeed.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. My man's on it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good quote from, what's his name, Mark Manson?
Mark Manson.
There
I
you go.
think so. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I know his book, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Right. Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really great advice, because I know, like, starting a YouTube channel on my end can be kind of like embarrassing, because like maybe classmate might see it, but I think the advice you gave is perfect. Like, I just have to continue even if there's haters, even if people make fun of me. That's basically the advice I got from you.
Yeah.
And especially doing this podcast, it definitely boosted my confidence, I think.
I got you, man. You know what time it
Sure,
is.
for
Yes,
sure.
sir. Yes, sir.
So, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so if the site is still on, it's Jallal.com. Looking at that camera, and that camera.
All right.
They can find me at Jallal VII, and that's JALLALVII, and that's on Instagram. And then they could also find me on Facebook, and your mother and your cousin and your sister can find me on MySpace. Now I'm playing with the MySpace.
Come on,
Or you
man.
can find me on SoundCloud. Shout out to look, yo, I'm gonna be shameless with the plug. Shout out to SoundCloud.com/Jallal. I still go into that, but yeah, Wikipedia, man. Just you know what I mean. There's just Google my name, Jallal. Like everything's there, man. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you for your time,
Thank you
Jallal.
for coming out.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
guys.
man.
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
Appreciate
But
it.
yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for watching this Passport Boys episode 8 podcast. This is our special guest, Jallal, our
Just got
first
our
guest.
passports. Yeah.
All right.
Shout out to Muhammad Ali.
Thank you for watching.
Shout out to my
And-
man Musa.
Heck yes.
Shout out to my
Come
mom.
on screen for one time.
I love you,
Yeah,
Mom.
come on the screen.
Moose.
Come on the screen.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
The guest is introducing my brother right here. Come on, you got to start moving.
Oh yeah. Come on.
Let's go. Look at this introduction. Look at this introduction.
Okay.
Come stand right here behind us.
Yeah.
This is my broski right here. You can't see
Yes.
him. Very, very, very
there you
incognito. You want to say anything to the people?
Give some
what's
words
your
of
last
wisdom.
message?
Yeah.
Quick words of
give us some
wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Come on, man.
Yeah. What's the word of wisdom?
Be the best that you can.
You're talking.
Thank you. Thank you. You hear that? Say it again. Be the best. Say it again. Say it
Yeah,
again.
say it in this mic.
Be the best that you can.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. You heard it here first. Woo.
Yes.
Passport boys.
Passport Boys.
We ain't getting deported. Shout out to everyone on DACA. We out.
We out.
Good.
Peace.
We're keeping that part.
We're keeping it in.